Hello, welcome to day 14 of the 21-day self-transformation challenge, Finding Purpose. We're already at the end of week 2, and we are continuing on this week with working the wounds and kind of going with the rebuild from there. And yesterday we were talking about inner truths, and part of the process here is finding out, getting to what are our inner truths. And whatever that looks like, and all the good and all the messy aspects of it. And once we get to our inner truths, then comes the next really step in the whole process or the journey, which is authenticity. And what that looks like is living or being or expressing what your inner truths really are. As so many of us, all of us, really, we hide behind masks, or we create masks. We create the masks of the ego, which, the ego, as I've said, is a protective measure. It's here to help protect us from pain and from harm, and to keep us safe and to keep us, in existence. So the ego has its beautiful purpose. And this, especially when we're younger, of protecting us. But as we get older, it becomes a hindrance to us, or can become a hindrance to us from growing and being who we truly are. And so, as I said, once we get to those truths, it comes to having to drop the masks and speak or express or be who we truly are, no matter what that looks like, even though it may look different from what everyone else thinks it should look like, or society says it should look like, or who or what you should be. And no one has the right or even ability to tell you who you should or shouldn't be. Only you can find out who you are and who you should be. I don't like to use the word should in that case, but once you get to your truths of what is right for you, you can choose to pursue that or choose to not pursue that. Because when you get into authenticity and start expressing who you truly are, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever that looks like. Notice there's 2 aspects of negative in that statement, but anyway, it makes you vulnerable, right? When people see that you get angry, or you aren't always right about something, or aren't an expert on something, it makes you vulnerable. It opens you up to criticism, or to rejection, or to being laughed at, or whatever that looks like. And nobody likes that. Nobody likes to feel vulnerable or put themselves in that position, because it makes them feel bad about themselves. So that's what the ego does, right? Protects us with masks. And before I go on, I did want to go into, of course, to look up the definition of the word authentic. And it was interesting because it said to be genuine. Okay, when you look up the definition of genuine, it says to be authentic. But it also says to be true, or to be what something truly is. So it's talking about truth and being true to that. And then, like I was saying, when you openly express who you truly are, because it doesn't always look like exactly one thing that fits in this small box, you do open yourself up. You open yourself up to criticism, to people get fearful around you when you are really and truly authentically yourself. It's threatening to people, but it also is inspiring to people. So, it's a double-edged sword. And, the issue of vulnerability in and of itself, you don't want to just run out there and open yourself up as a big target either. So it's a process when it comes to this kind of thing, of finding really who you can be vulnerable with and who you can't. And you learn as you go along with people that you can trust with your vulnerability, people that aren't going to exploit it, and people who get it, and people who appreciate it. Not everyone appreciates genuineness and authenticity. And not everyone appreciates this process that we're going through here. This is, to me, kind of a grassroots type of movement. There's not a lot of people that are willing to do this kind of work. Not a lot of people that are willing to make themselves vulnerable. But the beauty of vulnerability is once you do open up and drop a few things about yourself, and it really, to me, I've always found it makes me more powerful because I'm not hiding anything from anyone. I'm not hiding that aspect or whatever it is that I have revealed. So nobody can push that button. Nobody can come at me with and use my secrets against me. Nobody can run around talking behind my back. If I'm all out in the open with it, okay. And it empowers me. It really, really does. Because I don't care what other people think. I don't care what their interpretation of whatever my vulnerability that I expressed is. For the most part, I've really gotten into that position. And there are many things that I'll come out with that other people would never come out with and, never expose the truth of. And, because I like to try to live genuine to myself. And as I get stronger in doing that, my life changes and it becomes better and I become more content and happier, and I'm able to truly pursue the things that I find fulfilling, the things that light me up, like I'm always talking about. So until you can start expressing these aspects of you, or are willing to step out a little bit and be authentic and expose the vulnerability, you can't live your purpose unless your purpose specifically fits into that little box that society says is the right path, or that your family says is the right path, or that your friends say is the right path. It isn't always ugly and messy, and as you see people more and more and more become willing to open up themselves and live a life or express more of who they are and more of their purpose. And you see these people stepping out of, say, their corporate jobs and opening the bed and breakfast, a little cliche example, but it is. These are people that are trying to live authentically and trying to live what's true to their desires and true to their heart, the things that light them up and really give them fulfillment. So I think that's really beautiful, and it's a really crucial part of the process is being willing to be truly authentic. Because if you're not, people pick up on that. If you don't embody who you are or what you're trying to put out there, typically people pick up on that, and over time, if you're living as someone that you aren't, it catches up with you and there's an aspect of failure to it. Even if it's an internal result, depending on how you define success and failure. So, it is, again, now that we've done all this hard work to get there and to get to our truths and find out our triggers and understand how we work, it becomes this process of being authentic, living authentically to who you are. Because as you live authentically and express these things, that you don't get triggers anymore. And I want to recommend, I have a book by Brene Brown. Anything that Brene Brown writes is highly recommended. But this book in particular talks about vulnerability and shame, basically, shame-based culture. But it talks about being vulnerable, and it's called Daring Greatly: How the Courage to be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead. And like I said, anything that she writes is fabulous, but for today's, what we're talking about for today's vulnerability and authenticity, this is a great book. Again, it's Daring Greatly by Brene Brown, Brene Brown. I highly recommend it because it is a process of learning how to make yourself vulnerable without it, being just crushing you. Again, like anything else, you don't want to just run out there, go out all out, and just get crushed by society or by the people around you. So it's a process of learning how to do it, how to open those aspects up, and also how to become more self-contained and more, really this getting back to this sort of self-love. Because if you love yourself enough, it's not going to matter what anybody else thinks. So we can put all these pieces, they start kind of coming together and weaving together, and you see how the whole mechanism works on our journey. So again, this is the end of week 2. So we'll be starting on week 3 tomorrow, and would love any feedback, any comments, especially if anyone has read the book Daring Greatly. Highly recommend it, and any thoughts, comments are welcome. So I hope everyone has a really fabulous day, and I hope you're enjoying the journey.